And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Looking at Sunday's flying weather graphic for Sunday morning, a lot of IFR here, Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast, Bering Sea, Aleutians, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, right into the west coast here on up to the Seward Peninsula. Marginal VFR all the way into the east central interior, south central Alaska. IFR mostly off the coast here in the Gulf of Alaska. Marginal VFR right along the southeast coast, otherwise VFR. And for the afternoon, stays pretty nice here over the inside waters of the southeast coast. So some marginal VFR right along the coastline. IFR staying off the coast in the Gulf there, coming down probably across Sitkinak Island. Marginal for Kodiak, right on up into south central Alaska. And actually marginal VFR here up into the mid and upper Tanana Valley, White Mountains, and even a little to the north. With conditions improving for the north slope at the Arctic coast, looks like IFR through the day. No change out to the west with IFR. And then for Monday morning, again out west here, not much change. Stays IFR from the Aleutians through the Bering Strait and up along the Arctic coast. Marginal VFR though, say roughly around Prudhoe Bay eastward to Kaktovik, Barter Island. And then areas of VFR in the interior with some areas of marginal VFR. IFR, Kodiak, Fognak Island, right up just grazing the south coast of the Kenai Peninsula, and then over toward Cape Yakataga to Yakutat. And this area pushing in toward the Panhandle, but not quite reaching the coastline, so staying VFR right through the afternoon Monday there for the southeast coast. Marginal VFR lingering around the Alaska Range, and IFR now up into southern Cook Inlet, more likely the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, and just along the eastern North Gulf Coast. Mostly VFR over the central and eastern interior, with VFR back all the way to the north slope, and some areas of the Arctic coast as well in the afternoon. But out west here, solid IFR. And for the passes, Anatuvik and Adigan for the day Sunday, occasionally marginal for both passes on either approach. And Lake Clark and Merrill, same forecast, occasional marginal VFR for the day Sunday, as well as rainy, windy. Isabel, Mentasta going VFR. And there, Tanita, marginal VFR. Portage, marginal. Chilkoot and White, VFR again, probably for the next couple of days. And for the freezing levels, cold air aloft dropping down out of the Arctic here at the surface as well. You can see the freezing level at the surface right down to the Brooks Range, 2,000 feet just south of the Brooks Range, and then rising back to 8,000 feet here over southern Alaska, 10,000 feet for Kodiak Island. And pretty warm air upstairs for the Panhandle here, 12 to 14,000 feet for those freezing levels, as well as out over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And from there, looking at icing, could be some possible isolated moderate rime icing slipping on in toward the Pribilof Islands, but staying north of the Aleutian chain and well off the west coast. Otherwise, possible icing here for the north slope to the Arctic coast, down the east side into the southeast interior. And this area here, just coming onto the chart there, staying mostly south of Kodiak Island through the day. Otherwise, moving to the jet stream with this cold upper low coming down toward the eastern Arctic coast at 33,000 feet. Northwest winds here, 75 to 85 knots. One branch breaking off. Westerlies 85 knots over toward the Yukon Flats to the border. Another branch, northerlies, coming down to the Alaska Peninsula at about 75 knots there. And then out to the west, a little bit of an increase there with a weak low over the western Bering Sea. 9,000 feet, showing northwest 40 knots here along the northwest coast in toward Kotzebue, swinging around to the west, picking up speed to about 50 knots over the eastern interior, and 45 knot westerlies for the western Aleutians. Otherwise, pretty light for the Panhandle and the Gulf here, and the southwest interior. 3,000 foot winds. Pretty light winds. These 45 knot winds probably will be just to the northeast of the eastern Arctic coast, so pretty light over the interior and the Panhandle as well. And as a result, with the light wind conditions, no significant turbulence expected around the state.